Hey, what's up? It's your girl, Latoya. Welcome to a Manifest That Shit podcast. We are going to be talking, of course, about manifestations, but also about how you can make your life your business. We're going to be digging deep and talking about passion, purpose, and profit. So stay tuned for this upcoming episode.
Woo-hoo! All right, everybody, welcome to the Manifest That Shit podcast. So out of 2 years of having this podcast, I think on my last episode said that it was season 3, episode 4 or 5, but it's actually, this is going to be special guest episode 4. So kudos to me, 2 years, just finally making a mistake. It's awesome. But we have an amazing guest. I call her my spirit animal because she's just bluntly honest and I absolutely love it. And she's an amazing diva. So we have Sage Aubrey of Sage Aubrey Purses, which is a very beautiful, high-end, very unique purse. And so we're going to be getting into that. And also I saw Florence, Italy involved. So I'm very obsessed with anything Italian. And, whether it's the shoes, the purses, or the men, absolutely obsessed. Food. I'll take it all.
I heard Italian men are very temperamental. I don't know, girl. If you can deal with the drama of an Italian man, kudos to your girlfriend.
Probably need to go the other direction at this point. So, Sage, go ahead and introduce yourself and how you got into, obviously, the purse brand. What was your passion? Why you made your brand specific and unique to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I think we're both spirit animals of one another, which is so exciting. I am the designer, founder, and creative director of Sage Aubrey handbags. I design luxury quality bags at attainable prices with no fashion intimidation. So my journey is really interesting. To dive back a little bit deeper, I started an accessories business with my mom and sister when I was in high school. So I really got into, and that business was started like by pitching a sign on the side of the street, like a garage sale sign.
Right.
And that the work ethic that I learned from that, mm-hmm. and the shamelessness and the egoless of just creating something from the ground up, like literally from your garage up, mm-hmm. is always kind of been my mindset. I've never had large marketing dollars. I've never been totally funded and invested in. So I've learned to take a penny pretty far. So that's something. So I did that and I graduated high school and I went to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. I was involved in a program there that apparently didn't exist. So I left and I went back to Phoenix and I was going to university and bored to death because I don't belong in a classroom. I'm just not one of those types.
Right.
And I convinced my parents that I needed to start my first boutique. So I did. At 22 years old, I opened my first store. With that business, I had instant success, which was crazy for a 22-year-old girl. But I took a risk and it paid out. And I ended up having a chain of boutiques that I eventually had lost in 2009.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
After the economy crashed.
Our whole entire lives. Yeah. 2009 was just plummeted.
Yeah, it was tragic. I think it came, now that I look back at it, it was the greatest learning lesson in my life, building those companies, doing what I did at such a young age. The vulnerability that it takes to create something is incredible, So I learned, I've been just working with women since I was a really young age. So I also learned the power of connection and community. And I learned that from my first business. I don't know that people thought I had the greatest stuff ever, but it was the relationships that I built with my customers. It was the fact that they could trust me. It was the fact that they knew that there was integrity in what I built. I never wanted someone to walk through my doors and just sell them something. I wanted them to have an experience. I wanted them to be my friend. And because of that, that built my business from word of mouth. So that's something else that was an incredible learning lesson from that business as well. Mm-hmm. So let's shoot forward a little bit. I end up closing my stores and I get married 3 weeks later. My husband gets this incredible job opportunity in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Oh. So we end up moving to Malaysia, and I get there and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing in this country? I had nothing
stuck out.
Yeah. Like I had nothing going on. It was like, I went from working 7 days a week, 24/7 for years to crickets.
Yeah.
So I went to the bookstore one day looking for inspiration, and I picked up a book called Half the Sky, Turning Oppression into Opportunity for Women Worldwide.
Wow.
Read this book over a few times, and it accounts different oppressive issues that exist onto women and girls globally, which I really didn't know what was going on in the world. And that really opened my eyes to some darkness.
Right.
But it changed me as a woman. From that point, I went on a 2-year philanthropic hiatus. I traveled around Southeast Asia and eventually came back into the US, and I was raising money for an organization who battles sex trafficking throughout India.
Wow.
So that became a major passion project for me. And I ended up sitting on panels at the Clean Global Initiative. I mean, it just steamrolled into something really phenomenal. I got tied up into a world that I loved, but I also felt like I didn't belong there.
Right. Yeah.
So I ended up taking a step back. We moved back to the US in 2012, and I was reading an article and saw the story of Rebecca Minkoff, who was just seemed like this normal girl who started this fashion brand that was doing something phenomenal.
Yep. So
for her, she really humanized a normal girl like me from Phoenix, Arizona, that could possibly do something on the greater headline in the fashion industry. It wasn't just, for me, reading her story, it wasn't just the big headline Dior's and Gucci's anymore. Like someone else could come up through the line.
Right.
So I ripped out that article and I had my husband read it. And I was like, I think it's time for me to get back to building the business. I have a different purpose behind me now. And I've got a different strength from these women and girls and these stories. And I'm just invested in building a company for something. I want to make an impact. And I don't want to just do it for an ego-driven purpose. I want to do it because I want to eventually give back to women and girls and in education. So I started off developing, sampling, and researching Sage Aubrey in 2012.
Okay.
And took a real deep head dive into the fashion industry, into sampling, into production, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
I love to tell my story because I want women to know that you can show up to something imperfect. And you can work really, really hard and be persistent, and something great of value can come from that. But I think the hardest thing for me is, or I think one of the most important things for me today is making women understand that this shit did not happen overnight. No. This has been me waking up since 2012, making mistakes, being not great at what I was doing, honing my talent, telling me that I was going to fail, telling me that things weren't going to work out because everyone fails in fashion. I had no connections. I didn't protege with anybody. I'm completely self-taught. I am an underdog of all underdogs, basically.
Right.
And walking into this industry where it's not an open door policy. This is a closed door. People don't come up in this, especially when I was doing this in 2012. Instagram has changed a lot of the game today. A lot more people are coming into this space. But it's not like you can just walk into Italy or walk into manufacturers and be like, hey, I'm like this emerging designer and I've got some ideas. Like people give you the middle finger and they're like, good luck.
They're a beast, I've heard, to work with, and culturally, traveling there and meeting the people. I mean, north to south is very, very different. And so, like you said, kind of knowing and understanding the culture, bringing yourself into a world that is typically, especially as a white female, right, from the U.S., coming into Malaysia, coming into a different world, then drawing yourself back in, right, and then saying, here I am trying to bring myself forward vulnerably and, like you said, shamelessly, and saying, hey, I'm dedicated and I'm committed to a vision that is larger than life.
And it very well has the humanitarian piece. It very well has, the diva, the fashion, all of that, but it also has back to the heart, right? And so that is the reason why I reached out to you, because I said, for my brand and for your brand, and somebody who's able to build a relationship, it's funny. So I'm digging into the timeline. A lot of people who have been following me for a very long time know that I have a very spiritual side. I have, the psychic, medium, empathic powers that be, right? Gifts. We all have the intuitive gifts, especially women. And so I find it really significant in your story that hilarious. We're two strangers, right, in a very big world, right here in Arizona. And 2009 was full of life lessons. 2012, I moved back here, hitting the ground running, being a part of different Phoenix Children's Hospital Foundation, to the Junior League, to Girls Rule Foundation. It was crazy, right? And so I find it very interesting that two people from different ends of the world, mentally, spiritually, right, all these things that could be possible barriers, can be bought here. Here's the magic that I want people to understand and see, is that on a spiritual level, you can't tell me, it's science. Energy is everything that we put out into the world. And we're two people who've been brought together for whatever it may be. And we have very, very similar paths, right?
And I didn't know that until just
Right? I mean, and that's the amazing, I have like these little tingling sensations that I get, right, when I'm in full alignment with people that I bring onto my show. Because you cannot make any of this shit up. You just can't, right?
No, you can't.
So into that, how did you use and harness manifestation for yourself in your business? Because as many times as people have said, no, you're not going to succeed, you're being put down. Like you said, you had a significant other, and they may not be mentally where you're supposed to be. How do you get around kind of like the Chicken Little syndrome, as I call it? The sky is falling and they're like, yeah, okay, sure. How do you deal with the manifestation and keeping yourself grounded?
First of all, when I started this, like I said, I came into it so egoless because of what I had just done for 2 years prior to that. I also am never someone who's ever been full of ego or feeling like I'm better than people, or I know all, so I've always, when I've been determined and I've wanted something in my life, I've set my goal to it and I work really hard. And there's something that's interesting about someone can say something to me like, I think you're going to fail. And I said, well, I know I'm not great right now, but I want to be really, really, really good. Right. I put myself in the aspect of, I was like, I want to be like a modern age Kate Spade, a modern age, these women who have done something so significant in the fashion industry, Diane von Furstenberg. I put these things in my mind, you know what I mean? Like I laid them there. And I've always, since I was a little girl, I've always wanted to be a woman who made an impact. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I knew it was going to be helping inspire confidence in women, because it's something that I just think going through a really hard childhood and being the strong figure in my household, the strong woman.
Preach.
Yeah. So I think that I always wanted to be something that was strong for women. And I believe I was like given this power, whether it's as small in my community or as it is because I have all girls, or if it's, to build Sage Aubrey community and make a huge impact in the fashion industry that so notoriously doesn't respect women.
Right.
So, there's just, I've manifested, and all of these thoughts that I have, I've put out there. And if it's not, and the more action I take and the more risks I take and the less I fear failing, and the more I keep putting myself out there, the more this manifestation comes to life.
Absolutely.
I'm a believer in writing things down. All of a sudden I'll have this feeling, or I'll say, it was interesting. In 2018, I was like, okay, how am I going to rev it back up again? This was after I had my first daughter. I was like, how am I going to do this shit? I was like, I need to get out there. I need to start talking with women. I need to get out of just working behind a desk, and I need to start making impact in women's lives and connecting myself with women, vice versa.
Right.
I was invited to a female networking community. From that point, for some reason, I got asked to stand up and introduce myself and say what I do and what my ultimate goal is. And I stood up and I introduced myself and I said, I want to become a globally recognized brand. I had never in a million years said that, because I always held it back. But from that point, so many things have been manifesting from the moment that I just said it out loud.
Yes, because you told the universe exactly what was powerful in you, what was your desire and your intention. And I think that a lot of people miss that when it comes to putting things in play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially something that you touched on right there, and that I have a 6-month-old little boy.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. And being a first-time mom, it changes your energy. It changes because you went from being, single, whatever person as an individual to being, full-fledged, okay, I'm still an entrepreneur, I'm still a creative, just turning those train wheels, so to speak, and getting the kind of dust settled off and getting back into yourself. And I think that as women, we tend to block ourselves and go, okay, nobody's going to accept me now. I'm not going to be able to do 110% like I did. But it's funny because no, you're not going to be able to do 110% like you did. But what you are going to do is 210, and some. And you have superpowers that are absolutely beyond your recognition if you take the action, if you take the risk, and if you step into that power. I think that we don't give ourselves credit as a community of women. And hopefully we tend to start thinking about those things, having compassion and consideration for what the next person is going through right next door. So I think that is, I think that's very significant, because we are mothers, healers, and we are able to, we're Mother Earth. We can create anything. All we do is we have to speak it and believe that.
I want to touch on one of the points about manifesting. And for anyone here that's listening, I've always had this determination. Like, I've set myself to something since I was a very young girl. I was not the smartest girl in the classroom. I didn't have all A's. I didn't, my parents didn't think I was even capable of my stepfather, who was a chauvinistic asshole, didn't think I was even capable of going to college. And, but what I had was this determination. But what happened was, when I got into this industry, I had so many people telling me that I was going to fail, that I almost had this mindset of, I was going to win, but what if I don't?
Yes.
And the moment that this happened in 2018, I had a breakthrough at that networking event that I was just talking about, where all of a sudden I was like, it's not that I'm not, what if I fail? I will never think like that ever again. I was like, I have this failure mindset. It is like, how am I going to win every single day? When I changed this mindset of the what if I'm going to fail and turned it into how am I going to win, I am telling you, it is another part of something that completely changed in my life. I had so many people who tried to control the direction of my company.
Right.
And when I decided that there was no more of that, there was no more chitter, there was no more PR companies telling me this, no more buyers telling me to do this, no one telling me how I was going to do it. I was going to do it my way and believe my intuition. And the moment I started to beast that way, like the floodlines opened up in my company. Opportunities have come to me in great abundance. And I don't say that, I say that humbly because it could be all gone tomorrow. But I'm just letting people know that a certain mindset I truly believe held me back. I think people being so negative, it got to me.
Right.
And I started to believe them, the what if.
Yeah.
So if I can just encourage anybody at any moment, any woman, there's a lot of chitter chatter out there. And there's a lot of people who think that they know all, but they don't.
They don't.
And our intuitions are king. And I think I would be ahead of myself right now if I had that breakthrough 5 years ago, but I didn't.
And that's something that you're speaking on that it's very funny. I was sitting here telling my, self, because I have a team and, I'm in a very male predominant industry, which is online advertising and now the social media marketing. I've added it to my business coaching. And so, of course, it's like you get into this world 5 years ago and now, and it's like, holy shit, hearing that, oh, wow, there's even leaving corporate and hearing that, hey, guess what? They're going to pay that person $5,000 more a month because they're a male in a suit, smelling good, looking a certain way, then they may pay you, right? I spoke to somebody who was humble enough to sit down with me and give me the real rundown of, hey, I'm thinking about this. Am I on the right path? And so that way I'm not, as I call it, mind fucking myself with the negative automatic thinking that I always teach and I talk about, because we can absolutely be so, we create our own people within our own heads too, and bring in what's out here in here. And it affects our energy and our way of thinking and being bold. And like you said, it was amazing to me. And I was just like, okay, but I want to kill it. And I want to give women an opportunity to rise in some of these male predominant industries. I went from project management, very male dominant, healthcare, and then getting into business and all of that. And it seems like we are meant to be like, this is the time. There's a window of opportunity that is open for females to step in. And I found it really interesting how I had a son versus a daughter, right? I had things that I'm going to be teaching him and breaking down all of those barriers that are not the typical, and to be able to be compassionate, helping women to rise and to find more understanding, but to still be in his power too, right? That sacred masculine energy that we talk about, as well as the feminine. And being in the industries that we're in, there's a certain level of sacred masculine energy that you hold within yourself. And I hold within myself, because we got to come with it. And then there's a sense of vulnerability that we can kind of show ourselves, kind of flash the feminine energy, but still say, hey, like, don't fuck with me. Like, I'm about my business and I'm highly intelligent because I'm passionate about what I do. And I think that we don't give, myself too. I totally was not like on a roll all the time. And, it took me much effort to put into studying or whatever else. And I had to always have a carrot in front of me to drive me, right? When I was younger, until I found my own determination and discipline. And so I think that we as women have to, and women who are, I should say, on the sidelines, and trying to figure out, well, how do I jump in? It's like, just jump in. You can't lose. I mean, I literally had a day in my business where I ended up gaining 4 clients.
Mm-hmm.
Had I not moved forward with or without my team or whatever, like I would have lost,
mm-hmm.
And having that significance of you got to just believe in yourself and just jump, and the abundance is on the other side
of fear.
That greatness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, I have a lot of friends who are creators and creatives and creative entrepreneurs. And as women, we know a lot of small business owners, and they're like, how do you just go? And I'm like, I just am always in motion. If I as a creative am stagnant, or if I'm not pushing myself, I become very depressed. Yes. I'm not saying I've been like in a clinic or anything, but for me, like I have got to be in motion. I've got to be connecting with women. I've got to be creative. It inspires and it fuels my creativity, which fuels my ambition, which fuels what I want to do. So I just learned that as a creative, I've got to stay in motion.
Yeah.
I can't become complacent. Yeah. And at any moment where I'm like, I haven't scared the shit out of myself enough, I'll do something or book an appointment or book a meeting or book a panel or book a talk or something where I'm just scaring the shit out of myself.
Yeah.
Because when I do that, I evolve again.
Yeah.
I think, then I sit with a lot of women because I do a lot of mentoring, like, well, I can't do that, or I'm not right at that place, or blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, you're never going to get at that place just sitting here and talking about how you can't get there. The only way to get there is to stop talking and start doing.
Yes.
And I think that it's easy for us women to get stifled in perfection.
Correct. Yeah.
Because we all do. But you're never gonna achieve perfection until you just start something, and I love that quote about champions. Like a champion never becomes a champion, or they get up, because they have one more fight, that's always like, and I think that's the life of an entrepreneur or as a business owner. It's like, you've always got to have that one more fight in you because you're constantly failing forward.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's important. And so I just want to quickly wrap things up really quick, but I want to say thank you to you showing up and being a queen and really being able to connect here with me. I really would love to have you on the show again. I love to have my guest on, continuously as things flow, because the messages are powerful and they change daily. And I think that we forget. I had somebody send me this beautiful message and just saying, oh my God, Latoya, like, you're so enlightened, like you get it, but there's other enlightened people. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to leave my listeners with, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. Even though we are creatives and we are entrepreneurs and we're in it to win it, and sometimes we don't feel like it, we're truly not alone, and we inspire each other, and that we have to reach out. We have to continue to be kind to one another as women, and you never know what somebody's battling or going through. So, I just want to thank you so much for, like I said, taking the time out of your day, because we all have busy schedules, and just taking the time to be vulnerable and to be open and to continue to encourage. You've encouraged me. And so you've absolutely made my Monday. I think I'm going to continue to do podcasts on Mondays. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you having me here and trusting me to come into your audience. And that means a lot to me.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much for joining me on today's episode of the Manifest That Shit podcast. If you are interested in getting your side hustle into a true business and stop treating your business like a hobby, then sign up for the How to Work Like a Boss and Make 10K. It is a free guide just for you that I created. And in this, it really gives you the exact steps that I took in order to create that passionate, purposeful, and profitable business. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And last but not least, leave a review. Give me those stars and leave your comment. Let me know what topics you would like to hear next time. And definitely, if you're interested in booking a free business strategy session with me, go ahead and also click the link below. I'll see you in the next episode. Make sure that you make your life your business. Bye, Boss Babes.